There can only be one.
You said that. You did that. And the only thing that popped into my brain is Justin Bieber. Only one girl. His song.
I don't know any of those. Guys, if you knew the jokes that we talked about off air, no one would be listening. We would get canceled.
Everyone would be deeply offended.
Nonetheless, they are hilarious.
They are.
We got a good episode today.
We have a fantastic episode today.
Yeah.
We've been wanting to do it for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm excited we finally made the time. There might be some rants in here, but I think they'll be good.
There are some rants.
Yeah.
I got a lot of things to rant about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fired up.
So we have our races reversed episode.
Fantastic.
So let's start the show. Hello and welcome to the Strive Nation podcast, the podcast where we talk about the monotony of daily life. But hey, that's okay because sometimes that's exactly what you need in this crazy world. My name is Cory Estreen, and as always, I'm joined with my constant co-host and fiance, Taylor Huff. How are you this fine evening, my dear?
Wow. I didn't think of a word before we hit record.
Damn it! Podcast over.
I am content. I am full of joy.
Wow. You're really branching out there. 2 adjectives tonight.
What I want to say is fucking stressed, but I'm not going to use those words.
Close your ears, friends.
I am good.
She's whipping out all the what do you call those curse words? Vulgarities. We have the races reversed episode in which we talk about how the media likes to give narratives differently for people depending on their skin color. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You
know, if you're one race, you can say all the racist things and it's known as power to the people.
Yep.
And if you're another race and you say that, you are a racist radical.
I mean, and we've known this for a while, you know, for example, how they portray white shooters, black shooters, victims of certain crimes versus heroes of certain crimes, you know, especially what they did with George Floyd. Like, they've been doing this for the last, at this point, like, it's been coming up more so since 2015, 2016, I think.
Definitely.
Is when it really started to lift off, and thank you, Obama. All right, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a drink that I made.
Wow, that's great. What is it?
I really love cold brew from Starbucks with the sweet cream cold foams and whatnot. So I made my own today. So I have cold brew coffee. Actually, it's not even coffee. It's an Americano. So it's espresso and water. And then I put a salted caramel cold foam on top.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very fancy. See, I'm too lazy or uncivilized to make things like that, so that's where you have to make them for me.
Do you want to hear my iced coffee sound?
Yeah. There, very nice. All the people, you know.
The sound of joy.
Yeah, exactly.
ASMR.
ASMR, yes. ASMR coffee.
It's the best sound in the world. What are you drinking?
I am drinking Thunder and American Pale Ale IPA.
Wow.
Here is the pop. How does it taste? Like an IPA. I'm really not an IPA guy. But
you bought an IPA.
Well, the lady on the can is wearing a beehive on her head.
Oh.
And
there's a snake.
There's a snake and animals on the can. It's a green can, and this lady looks like she's having a good time, so why can't I?
Oh, it's from Jackalope here in Nashville.
Yeah.
Very neat.
Jackalope Brewing Company. There you go.
Very cool. I'm glad you're not drinking a Bud Light.
No, we don't support Bud Light here anymore. It's all about that Miller.
It is. And Thunder Ann.
And apparently Thunder Ann. All right. Pause the show. Go get yourself a Beveragino of choice. As long as it's not a Bud Light, I don't care. Go sip me some Dylan Mulvaney.
Ew.
Gross.
Gross.
Before we start the show, make sure that you go right now and follow on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Strive Nation Pod for all the coolest content on the internet. And for you visual people, head over to YouTube and smash the subscribe button and like every video to show that you care. But first,
Upvotes and downvotes.
Woo!
Yes.
Nice. She did it this time. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, what's your upvote?
My upvote is the weather is finally beautiful, which means all of the walks.
Yes, indeed. I too like a good walk. Lets me out of my cage every once in a while.
Well, I was gonna make the joke that I want to go on walks all the time, and I'm constantly asking Cory, "Can you go on a walk with me? Can you go on a walk with me?" I kind of feel like his dog that he's taking out on walks.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to say to that. I was gonna make a joke about giving you food, but you're the one who makes me food.
That's
so,
true.
Yeah.
Yes.
We support each other.
Yes. He walks me, I feed him.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your upvote?
My vote is that we had a fantastic Easter. On Jesus's
Resurrection.
second birthday.
He is
born
risen.
again. He is risen. It was a lovely day. We had some great brunch, courtesy of Taylor, and we had friends over and played board games.
Yeah.
And new games. A game that I'm actually pretty decent at because our friends are like insanely intelligent. They all got IQs of like 180.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to like win.
They are very smart. Like, so smart.
That's okay though. I won a game.
And the game was
I don't even know what it's called. Something Scrabble.
Bananagrams.
Oh, Bananagram. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And we played categories.
Patterns and numbers. I'll stick to that.
Yes. Cory wasn't so hot at this categories.
No, I can't think fast enough. On the spot. I'm just not good at that.
I love that game.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
Yeah, it was a good time.
All right. Now to the bad things.
Yes.
What's your downvote?
So my downvote. We've had a lot of protesters the last couple of weeks protesting for more gun control, as if the criminals are finally going to listen to the laws, and to protect trans rights, because apparently there's this huge, massive community that we all need to spend all our time on. So there's been a lot of protesters. I've been really grinding my gears more than normal. And Saturday, I was walking to my car to go grocery shopping. And like, yes, I look like a lefty. I have orange stripes in my hair. I've got tattoos. I don't look like the typical Kayleigh McEnany Republican. So I'm walking, and I had to walk through the protesters, get to my car. And this lady in her car says, "Hey, excuse me, are you at the protest?" And I didn't mean to sound like a bitch, but I straight up went, "Oh, God, no."
Yikes.
And it was really a stupid thing to do because there were protesters around me, and who knows, a crazy could have reacted poorly. But I couldn't hide my distaste for the people wearing masks and the fat man wearing red lipstick and a dress. I was very...
That's not very nice. He prefers she.
Oh my God. I cannot. It irked me. And then someone thought I was a part of them, which irked me more, and I couldn't help it.
It's okay. You're fine. You're here now.
Yes, I'm in my safe space.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's my downvote. Hopefully they stop soon.
They won't. They're just getting started.
Hey, I almost hit someone with my car yesterday, so.
Well, I don't
Beep,
need.
beep.
I don't need you in jail, okay? Calm down there.
Hey, apparently to them, I'm a white female. I'll get away with it.
Yeah, you are a step
Yeah.
above of me, which I am on the bottom of the totem pole. I'm basically worse than a cockroach.
Practically.
But
basically.
at least I will survive a nuclear fallout
Yeah, that's true.
because I do act like a cockroach. I basically could eat anything.
Yes. Downvote for you.
My downvote is my second day off was stolen. Okay, so yes, big gas all around. We're down a manager at my store, so my second day from work was stolen. So I got Easter off, which is paid, and I have another day off. But technically, you're supposed to have 3 days off, one paid.
Yes.
I didn't get that. I got 2 days off, and at my job, you need to get away as much as humanly possible. Pay doesn't even matter. So yeah, that was my downvote this week. Is I lost a day. It is what it is. I will triumph.
Bummer.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Is it?
Not really, but let's get into the Races Reversed episode part of the show. The main topic, the big shebang.
Yes.
Are you ready? What do you think is going to happen? How do you feel about it?
I mean, I think we're going to go off on some tangents.
Obviously.
We get very heated about this topic. I think it's really hard for people who are libertarian and conservative because we so openly see how people are portrayed differently and how mainstream media bends things to push their desired viewpoint or to push their desired suggestion of how people should think. And because we see through all of the baloney, it makes it really hard for us not to get mad and frustrated and want to just like scream from the rooftops.
Yeah.
That's the frustration, is that people don't see it. You don't know this is happening until like you've been red pilled, you know?
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like the whole Matrix deal. You have no idea it's happening.
Yes.
And the thing is like unless you're going to have an open mind about things, like you're not going to see it any other way anyways. Mm-hmm. And they think that they're doing the right thing. Like I described to, we were having a conversation with friends before, is like when you're doing these things and you're virtue signaling and you're part of the whole intersectional hierarchy promoting those ideas, mm-hmm. like you think that it's virtuous and that you're being a good person.
Yeah.
When in reality, like you're the Nazi. Mm-hmm. Like if you were to extrapolate the whole idea out farther,
yes,
right? The Nazis thought they were part of a right cause too, mm-hmm. or they thought at least some of them were super led by fear, but a lot of them were probably believed in the cause. Mm-hmm. They probably believed that, like, example, Jews were less than, or that mm-hmm. like, because also it wasn't just about like, that was the whole thing with Hitler, is that he would alienate the Jews by telling like all the Germans that the Jews were these horrible people, right? He was right. villainizing that community so that people thought they were actually bad. Yeah. And that's exactly what the media is doing to conservatives. Mm-hmm. Like racist, bigot, homophobe, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what we are, regardless of whether we are or not. That's what we are, right?
Yes.
So it just, we're here to showcase the differences in how media portray the races in these stories. Mm-hmm. And we're going to take the situations, reverse them,
and sound terrible.
And sound terrible, and see and just see the reality of the hypocrisy that the media seems to like to revel in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this episode, like you're talking about, if you extrapolate it out far enough, like what you get is like Hitler and like Nazism and all that and fascism. I think a great example of this is 7 years ago? Yeah, 7-8 years ago. Everyone, like, these ideas that we're talking about today, like reparations and all of this like segregation and racism stuff, you're only hearing all of this in colleges, right? You're hearing it in liberal arts colleges. You're hearing it like they were a really small minority who thought like this. And everyone said, oh, they'll get out of college, they'll figure out what the real world is, and they won't have these beliefs and these views anymore. What you're seeing is all of these people are out of college and are now like our age, like late 20s, early 30s. And it didn't leave them when they left college. Like they've continued on with it, and it's expanded into mainstream, media and news. It's expanded into television shows and movies and children's education. Like it's really changing the landscape of the U.S., which, I mean, 10 years ago, if you would have said all this, I don't think anyone would have believed you.
Well, that's like, how some of these progressive ideals start. They start mm-hmm. as a seed, and then people grapple on. And you have to realize, like you said, that a minority of people thought these things, and they thought it would just brush off. But you have to realize that it is now bolstered 1,000-fold by the fact that we have social media. So now these vocal minorities can reach countless other people mm-hmm. with their views, and they don't want to be called a bigot, a racist, a homophobe, so they just fall in line. Yeah. Same thing with these companies. And now it's built up, it's compounded exponentially so bad that people all fall in line. Even the people who don't agree fall in line for fear of just being ousted. Mm-hmm. All it takes is a few people to throw out, hey, like, because what's your defense against saying, hey, this person's a racist or this company's a racist? Mm-hmm. It's bad PR regardless. There's no win out of it.
No.
The only win now is saying, no, I'm not. Prove it these days. And you're
Yeah.
seeing companies finally do that. The conservative companies, like, I'm not falling for this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the only way out of it, is to stand with what you believe and know the truth. Mm-hmm. That's all there it really is. But yeah, so let's talk about a little bit on the media hypocrisy and double standard. Mm-hmm. How does the media generally portray like Black Americans, like just in general when it comes to sentiment?
I would say with Black Americans, it really depends. They get portrayed in two different manners, okay? So their race either gets left out altogether if a Black person has done something negative or bad, their race doesn't get brought into it by mainstream media. They just say a person did X, Y,
Yeah,
and
they
Z.
completely leave out the race.
Yeah, so they leave out their race thinking that it's not important, which is something they should do. I don't think the race of you should matter if you've done something bad or wrong. So I have no problem with you leaving out the race. What I do have a problem with is if you're a Black American, you're a Black person who did something bad, we leave your race out. If you're a Black person and something bad happened to you, then your race is pivotal to why something bad happened to you.
Well, it's not even that something bad happened to you. Then they push a narrative on why it was because you're Black, right?
Exactly.
Because they want to showcase that it's like you're the ultimate
Racism.
victim and
Yes.
racism.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether that's the truth or not, that's the narrative.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean that's like the two different ways that people see Black people in the media. You did something bad, don't talk about your race. Something bad happened to you, we're going to talk about your race and push that as the main reason this happened to you. Versus white people, if you did something amazing, we don't hear about your race. It's just, oh, Tommy John went and stopped someone from murdering someone. Sounds great. And that's all it is. But if a white person does something bad, like shoot up a mall or rape someone, whatever the case may be, then we hear about their race, and they are racist because they did it too, just happens to be a different race.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a lot of like they twist and they add or they omit races based on what's going to best fit their agenda for pushing racism and dividing the country.
Yeah.
It's like a roundabout way of saying it.
Well said.
Thank you.
What about Asian Americans? How do you think the media attempts to portray them?
I think we've seen a lot of that in the past, 2 years since that incident in Georgia happened. If you're an Asian American, we don't talk about your race at all unless something bad happens to your community, and then we say everyone's racist because this thing happened to you. So for example, last year when
they use it not to fix the Asian community either. They're using it in an aim to help the Black community. It's like they only care about, well, they care a little bit about like, Hispanics too.
Yes.
But most of it is the 13% Black population. That's who they care about. That's their target audience. That's it. Yeah.
So for example, that the stories last year with that massage parlor where those Asian people were killed, they highlighted the fact that they were Asian to push the agenda that the white person shooting them was racist.
Right.
And it was fueled by racism. So their race was relevant because it pushed the further narrative that all white people are racist. They're racist against Black people, they're racist against Hispanics, they're racist against Asians. On the flip side, other than that, we don't really hear about why Asians' race specifically is relevant in the news.
Well, I think, first of all, I don't think the Asian demographic really favors, because it is minority technically, and it doesn't favor the whole idea that certain demographics in our country of races are oppressed. Because the Asian community is the most successful community that we have in America, and they're a minority as well.
Exactly. They're not using their own race to try and push forward of how they're so oppressed.
Right. In fact,
it's
companies,
the opposite.
In fact, it's the opposite with things like affirmative action. They're actually, like, places are technically using equity to be racist against Asians because of how smart and intelligent they are.
Yes, exactly.
Because they achieve much higher test scores than other races, such as blacks. They would over index on how many people get into college versus other demographics in proportion to how many, for example, Asians there'd be a lot more. So
it's being racist against Asians to favor Black Americans.
Right. Also, there was a Harvard lawsuit where a bunch of I think it was Asian students, filed a lawsuit against Harvard pointing this out, and Harvard lost the lawsuit. It turns out they were using race as a metric to allow people. They're like, hey, too many Asians are getting in. We have to start using race as a metric to expand our diversity. I'm like, well, but if an Asian is better than someone else, they should get in.
Yes.
I don't care what race they are. The race should have nothing to do with it.
If they earn the right to get into that school, let them into the school. If they didn't meet your requirements, they don't get in.
Right.
Regardless of, you want to help them out. But, I mean, we've talked about this in the past, but I'm going to single out Black Americans for a moment, but letting in Black Americans who didn't meet the requirements to go to that college in favor of equity, those students have the highest dropout percentage in the entire U.S. And for obvious reasons. People are like, why is this happening? Well, they didn't earn the right. They didn't meet the requirements to get into that school anyways. So they didn't meet the requirements. You lowered the requirements to let them in because that's what's equitable. And then they all drop out. And you're wondering why. Well, they didn't get in for the first place. Like, they proved that they couldn't handle that college, and you let them in anyways.
Instead of hand feeding people like easy ways to get in, instead of it being based on merit, how about you spend this money and on creating programs to help incentivize the Black American community to become more educated, like actually help them become more educated, instead of just handing it to them. Because that doesn't, it's like, what is it? Teach a man to fish versus giving a man to fish, right?
Yes.
That, I don't even got to say more.
Yeah. Oh, no, I completely agree with you. There's so many other better ways you could do that would have, the outcome would be equal versus just trying to make it equal with equity.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like in the news, like, they generally like kind of shrug off Asians as the not important race. Like, that's how it feels compared to like it's like a hyper focus on black and white, black versus white, black and white, and the Asians are just kind of there. The same thing with Hispanics; they're kind of shrugged off for the most part too. A little less than Asians. Asians seem to be the most shrugged off race, and I think that's because the whole demographic doesn't really fit their narrative. So I think they just kind of push it under the rug, whereas Hispanics a little more do fit the narrative generally, especially with the Mexican border and the wall and everything like that.
Especially with Dreamers.
Right, Dreamers, that whole thing.
Yeah, they fit more into the narrative of, they fit into the narrative more like Black Americans, where they like, their mother came over to the U.S. illegally to have them and like help them be successful. Like, they came here with no money. And, they have to fight for citizenship, whatever their narrative is. Versus with Asian Americans, their families came over here legally because they didn't come through Mexico. So they had to earn their right to be here legally. And their culture is multi-generations in the same home. So kids, parents, grandparents, all living in the same home, which has a village that's them raising the children. So the children are seeing, and Asian families have more nuclear families. Like, they have very low divorce rates. They have very low single motherhood rates because they have those values instilled in them. So multiple generation households, nuclear families on top of that. And their culture is to work hard and to earn what you get. Like, you have to earn the right to have what you have, right? And a lot of their preferred education for their children is doctors, lawyers, engineers, IT, web development. Like, their children are then going into college and choosing really successful, high-earning jobs.
Well, and that's because it's to honor the family, right?
Exactly. It's to honor the family. It's to, push forward society. It's to be useful.
It's to build your legacy, your family name. It's about building your family name.
Yes. Versus, we went to college for theater. We're not really making a difference in the world with acting,
You could, but it's few and far between.
It's, I mean, few and far between compared to like every kid who goes to school for nursing or to be a doctor.
Right,
or
right.
a lawyer, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just their family dynamics and their culture is just so, I mean, honestly, I think it's the number one and everyone should model their families after it. But that's where you get this divide. And that's why no one really cares about them because they're quietly, successfully working hard.
We're going to start looking at some clips. There's over the last year, we've seen a lot of interesting hypocrisy when it comes to Disney, some YouTube channels, as well as the media on how they portray the races. And what we're going to do is kind of play a game where we reverse the roles or reverse the races on what is said in the exact statements to see how it would be portrayed by the media or how each group would be treated differently based on what was said.
Okay. What's the first one?
The first one is, I think it was like a month ago. Scott Adams was on a podcast talking about how the media portrays people, actually. Okay. And how there's been a lot of talk recently about, like, you know, the racism is getting worse now because there's a hyper focus on it. Whereas, like, Morgan Freeman, if you want to stop racism, stop talking about it.
Exactly.
Because no one really cares about it. Like, babies, you know, do you think they really care? No. So why do we care?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But Scott Adams, he said some controversial things. We're going to play a soundbite.
If you know, nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. And I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, you know, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the f*** away. Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this. This can't be fixed, right? This can't be fixed. You just have to escape.
Okay, so he says white people should get away from black people and to not help black people.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of racist.
Well, yeah. I mean, I get what he's saying, but, like, it's kind of racist.
Yeah, like,
you know?
it sounds racist.
Yeah.
So the opposite of that, right? If we reverse it, someone would say black people should get away from white people and they shouldn't help white people.
Right.
Do you think mainstream media would let that play and be like,
well,
yeah,
look what happened. Look what happened to Scott Adams, right? Look how the media threw him under the coals for that. Which kind of
rightfully so.
Rightfully so. But for example, if someone said that black people should get away from white people, then that would be a heroic statement.
I think a good example of that is all these colleges are now having segregated dorm rooms so that black kids can have black spaces.
Yeah, and safe spaces. This is segregation, guys.
It is segregation. And it's true and it's happening. Like the dorm rooms being segregated, and then a lot of there's a college, their graduation this spring is going to have 6 different graduations because one of them is for black students only.
Yikes.
So again, that's racist.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about is, like, with the hyper focus, it seems to be that we're going backwards. Like, everything is the hyper focus on race makes people more racist.
Oh, absolutely. Because people think, oh, we're not giving black people enough space, we're not giving them enough resources. So instead, like, because we feel this way, we're going to give them more space, which is, you know, separating them from everyone else. That's going back to segregation, which we had in the 60s. And then giving them more handouts. Again, that's going back to the 60s, 70s.
Well, my thing is it's not equality. Like, why don't you just have everyone in the same space doing having the same opportunities that No,
like, why do you feel that black people can't handle being in the same graduation as a white person?
Well, that's my thing. Yeah. I mean, and like, also people being brought up are going to look at this and go, why? Why is there segregation now?
Exactly.
You know?
Especially, oh my gosh, imagine if this segregation thing, like, actually gets some, like, steam behind it and it starts to become more and more relevant. Watch kids 40 years from now go through school education, watch how we desegregated everything in the 60s because segregation was racist.
Yeah.
And then watch how in the 2020s we resegregated society because it was racist.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be in the history books unless they try to rewrite history, which they do. So,
Well, yeah, that's also a possibility.
yeah, well, speaking of how this would be in the roles reversed, we have another soundbite from one named Robin DiAngelo. And if you're not sure who she is, she is the author of White Fragility.
So White Fragility, her book, and she also is a book, but she also coined the term white fragility. So white fragility is referring to the discomfort white people may feel when discussing racism. So the book White Fragility is talking about how white people are uncomfortable talking about racism and how they will not acknowledge that deep down they are racist. No matter how much they say they aren't racist, every single white person is a racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Robin DiAngelo says herself, I need to apologize for my whiteness, and I need to apologize for the racism that is in my heart because I'm white. I can never get rid of that.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's ultimately racist yourself.
Yeah. Against your own people.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of, doesn't make sense.
It's weird.
But recently, she was caught on March 1st on a webinar called Racial Justice, The Next Frontier, talking about how people of color need to get away from white people and to have some community with each other.
And then I'm a big believer in affinity space and affinity work. And I think people of color need to get away from white people and have some community with each other. And I'll let that go and maybe see if anyone else wants to pick it up.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Wow. So, I mean, she literally said the reverse of what Scott Adams said, which is hilarious.
Literally the exact reverse.
But
she wasn't called out for it. It's not racist coming from her because it's black people.
Exactly. She's praised for saying that.
Yep.
That's insane. I need to have community with each other. So we need to segregate them into their own communities.
And here's the other thing. See, she's advocate. The real funny thing is, depending on the person too, what if Scott Adams says? People of color need to get away from white people and have some community with each other. What if Scott Adams said that?
Yeah.
But it's okay because it came from DiAngelo, who apologizes for her whiteness.
Exactly. White people need to get away from black people and have some community with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, people of color need to get away from white people and have some community with each other.
That's so racist.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just how the media portrays it so differently. We're so accustomed now to hearing about how white or how black people are so oppressed and how we don't give them the same opportunities and they have to work harder for everything and cops hate them and we're schools and they don't get this and they don't get that. We're so inundated with that hearing this and people are like, yeah, we need to let them have their own space. We need to let them have their own community. They need to get away from us white people because all we do is oppress them and we hurt them.
When in reality, the opposite is true. We should probably be mingling more to better want to understand each other.
Exactly.
That's the truth on eliminating more prejudice is becoming more familiar with each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was MLK's whole thing.
Right.
That's why we desegregated everything.
MLK really had nothing to do with he talked to everyone as if everyone was one race.
Exactly. That's his whole thing is not being colorblind, but realizing everyone comes from different backgrounds, but we're all Americans. We're all the same people. We all need to learn and understand from one another. Yeah. And no, I would hate to hear what he thinks of what we've done to America.
Yeah, I know. He would not be happy.
I think he'd be really upset.
That's crazy.
Okay, so who's next? What's next?
Next, we're going to focus on The Cut. We have a segment for The Cut, and they actually removed the video online because of the bad PR that it was getting, obviously. The video was titled, "What Are White People Superior At?" Told to you by several different black people.
Oh, no. This is going to be
people from the black community. Yeah.
Cringe?
Try not to cringe.
What are white people superior at?
What exactly are white people superior at?
They're real good at violence.
Violence. Genocide. It's like stealing people's lives just because they feel like it.
If you are white and you know this is happening and you say nothing, then you're a killer too.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Insecurity, pretending, fear,
Being fearful of nothing.
being ignorant,
Blame.
letting their egos control their every move, superior at being
What exactly are white people superior at?
oppression, gaslighting,
lack of empathy.
intellectualizing oppression.
Did I say oppression?
What exactly are white people superior at?
Taking what's not there. Taking
Taking our ideas.
Copycatting.
gentrification.
Appropriating things that do not belong to them.
Taking over other people's cultures and making you believe that they invented it.
Maybe they're thinking of it as repurposing. It's like recycle and repurpose.
As my grandma would say, them white folk, they'll take it if you don't copyright it.
Yeah, that's a little hard to listen to.
We're good at violence.
Yeah, we're good at stealing things.
We're good at oppressing people.
Here's the other thing is like the video was so catered to attack white people. It's actually scary. It was a targeted racist attack video.
Yeah, you didn't hear anyone say like, what are white people superior at? And then say like, boating.
Baking cookies.
Yeah, like there was no like funny.
Anything fun or good, it was all negative.
It was-
and not just negative, but really negative. Painting white people as
Yeah.
racist, thieves, killers, like literally.
It was very aggressive.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was straight up a racist video.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this video launches, nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about how horrible it is, besides obviously conservatives going, yeah, hey, is anyone looking at this? This is really racist.
And that's the only reason it got taken down, right? Is because a bunch of conservative media outlets covered it.
Well, and it
then
got
that-
enough PR where it's like, yeah, this is really bad.
Yeah.
Eventually it got that bad. But here's the thing. What if The Cut released a video with the title, What Are Black People Superior At? White people went on there and talked about how, they're good at having 10 children and having no fathers around and committing crimes and shooting each other.
Even exactly what they said on the video. What if it's just completely...
Yeah, completely reversed.
And just said, what are
Yeah.
black people superior at?
Yeah.
And they said violence.
Violence,
and
stealing things, killing,
stealing.
right? How would
That's-
that be perceived?
I mean, that'd be straight up absolute racism.
And the other thing is like that's their point of view. Like maybe the people in the video, it was obviously targeted, but maybe that's their point of view. But also, according to the statistics, everything that the black people said the white people did, the black people actually do.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing. It's like black people shoot each other en masse that other people don't,
Yeah. They have the highest
Black
on black crime.
Black on black crime is insane compared to all other communities.
Single motherhood.
Single motherhood rate's insane. It's like, why
Yeah.
are we not talking about this stuff?
Jail percentages.
Right.
Yeah. It's insane. It makes me sad.
Yeah, but no one talks about this and no one cares
Yeah.
because it's black people talking about white people and it's okay because they're oppressed and they're a minority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Cut could have made like a really funny video out of both of them and been like, what are white people superior at? And like you said, boating, baking cookies, grandma nicknames, and it could have been like, what are black people superior at? Cooking, music, dancing, rhythm,
Basketball.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they don't do that. It's a straight up negatively connotated attack, racist attack to alienate the sides.
I know. When they could have made it lighthearted for both sides.
Yeah, but
and showed like commonality.
But that wasn't the point of it.
Oh, I know. It
That's
wasn't
not
the point of it.
The point is to push the narrative.
It doesn't push their narrative.
Yep.
Like, God forbid, make a wholesome video about how people of all different races are awesome.
Yeah.
Like, shoulda, coulda, woulda.
All right, moving on. It's hard to listen to. I know. We're almost done.
This is my least favorite one. Disney's Proud Family. I used to watch The Proud Family as a kid. I used to love The Proud Family. It's like this black family Disney cartoon. Like the daughter is like a preteen teenager, like super sassy, trying to like make her way in the world. Her dad is this great like father figure, very like father figure with like giving great lessons and having the kids learn from him. It used to be a really, really, really good show. And then Disney rebooted it like a year and a half ago, which was like, oh my God, they're bringing back Proud Family. That's so cool. Like these kids get to watch it. But they changed everything about the show. And now the show's main agenda is to push that black people are oppressed and white people are oppressing you.
Yep. And that, yeah, and pushing narratives that aren't true.
Mm-hmm.
They have this, we're going to show this soundbite of this slaves built this country theme that they're really pushing. There you go.
This country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country. Tilled this land from sea to sea to sea. First there was rice, tobacco, sugar cane. Then Whitney did his thing and cotton became king. And we were its soldiers, 4 million strong. Fighting for America's freedoms, even though we remained America's slaves. Built this country. The descendants of slaves continue to build this. Slaves built this country. And we, the descendants of slaves in America, have earned reparations for their suffering. And continue to earn reparations every moment we spend submerged in the systemic prejudice, racism, and white supremacy that America was founded with and still has not atoned for. Slaves built this country. Not only field hands, but carpenters, masons, blacksmiths, musicians, inventors built cities from Jamestown to New Orleans to Banneker, Washington. 40 acres and a mule. We'll take the 40 acres, keep the mule. We made your families rich.
Slaves built this country.
Oh my God. My problem with this is that children are watching and learning from this.
Yeah. They're going to think that white people are evil.
That's insane. What about the what about the white kids that watch this?
I don't understand. It's like the aim is always to villainize the white man. It will always be that. That is the aim, and I don't understand that. History should be seen, especially we always talk about like men and women, men oppressing women. Why isn't it this cooperative effort to fight life's hardest challenges and doing it cooperatively? And that it was hard for both people in different ways.
Yeah.
We do. Why do we don't say that with men and women, and we don't say that with black people and white people and the people in America? Like Americans in general dealt with a lot of rough shit, and slavery was a thing.
Yeah, and it was a terrible thing, but our country learned from it.
Yeah.
You know, our country already went through the terrible like slavery and racism and like grew up from that back in the 60s and 70s. So why, like, we already learned, like, our country already went through that growing pain. We all acknowledged it was terrible. Hell, we had we had an entire war.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Even if you want to get super technical on who built the country, the Indians were here first. And no one talks about that.
Yeah, what about my people?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is like the Indians were here first.
What about me and all my Choctaws out there?
Yeah, and the point is that our history, cumulatively, all of us had a part in. It had nothing to do with slaves built the country, or Northerners technically built the country due to their industry, or it wasn't like that.
And you know what? The whole slaves built this country. Technically, the Native Americans were the first slaves in America back when Christopher Columbus came here.
Oh, 100%.
So the slaves you're talking about built this country are technically the Native Americans that became slaves due to colonizers.
Well, the Indians held slaves from other tribes. It wasn't even colonized. I mean, colonizers did, but tribes participated in slavery more than even the colonizers.
Exactly.
They literally scalped, killed each other, raped each other's women. It was a part of the culture.
Yes.
No one ever talks about that.
I know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, but the whole idea is Disney's idea is they want to perpetuate the idea that black people need reparations, white people are racist, and that black people built this country, and it's not entirely true.
No.
I mean, not in that light, anyways.
Yeah. Okay, so rules or races reverse. In there's a clip that says that like they deserve reparations. Could you imagine if the Even Stevens, did you ever watch Even Stevens?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say Even Stevens has an episode about race, and they talk about how white people built this country because they colonized it, and how white people deserve reparations. How would that go over?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, just put the other side, like put your feet in another person's shoes and see what would happen. Like, how would you be treated differently? You know, and it's not fair at all. But no one talks about this. You know, we have one more clip here from the Proud Family as well. Recently, White Fragility, the book, Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility, actually showed up in the Proud Family show, and this black guy basically condemns a white guy for being hesitant to talk about race or whatever, or defensive to talk about race, and he's just sitting there. Listen to this.
Oh, you understand love, don't you?
No, I do not understand anything about white fragility.
White fragility? What's that supposed to mean?
You know what it means. You're doing it right now.
Doing what?
Being defensive about race. Robert DiAngelo wrote a whole book about it.
I feel so bad for that dude. He's
so
blindsided. He's like, "What are you
uncomfortable.
talking about?" It's like people saying, "You're racist," and you're like, "No, I'm not." "Yeah, you are because you're saying you're not." And you're like, "Okay, like what is your,
How do you rebuttal that?
Well, and
Like,
then also,
rebuke
what
it?
is the aim? Like, what do you get from calling this person that? Do you like this person? Because it's not a nice thing to do. Is call someone racist.
Yeah. That term is so overused too now.
It is. It just
like you call someone a racist and no one actually believes that they're a racist because everyone calls everyone a racist now.
Yeah, and the reality is that very few people are racist.
Exactly.
Ever in history than right now, and it's gonna probably be worse because of all this shit.
Exactly.
Just wait to
Again,
fall out.
we're reverting.
3 to 5 years, see what happens.
Ugh.
Well, it may take longer than that, but still.
Daddy DeSantis is gonna save us.
Yep, the Florida blueprint, baby.
He's gonna reverse all this terrible racism.
There is no race. There's Americans.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say about
I
it.
will say that we live in the South, so we see some of this, but in the South, it's a lot of black and white. All the cities are pretty well blended,
Yeah.
And you don't see a lot of this talk happen in the South. It happens a lot in New York, California, Chicago. It happened the South was where the Civil War took place. Everyone here has some kind of history with what happened. And I think the South has not excusing it. We definitely see a lot of this media bending and whatnot. But I think the South is kind of shielded from this a little bit because we have perspective. We can tour the battlegrounds. We see the damages it had in Savannah and all these places.
Well, the other thing is even
we remember the history a bit more.
Yeah, but even black people have to be waking up to the idea that the media believes that they're stupid and they'll believe this. But in reality, it's the more mixed communities you have, people aren't going to think I'm that know me aren't going to call me racist for believing something different than they are. I'm not racist. That's it.
Exactly.
And there's nothing that, you know what I'm saying?
I think that's the American way. I mean, everyone talks about how America's a melting pot, right?
Yeah.
How America itself does have a culture, but our culture has been built upon all these different people bringing their cultures and teaching other people about it. And that's what we should really get back to is having mixed communities and you're black, I'm white, you're black Jamaican, I'm gonna eat your food and you're gonna teach me how to cook your favorite dishes.
Whatever happened to oh, where are you from? You see, I'm not sure, that dialect or whatever. Why would that's not racist to ask someone where they're from.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to being curious about a person's heritage? Hello?
Being genuinely interested in someone.
Yeah. It's
wanting to learn about the history of their family and their culture and where they came from. Even white people.
Yeah.
At the office, my friends will be what are you? Where's your family from? And everyone gets really excited about talking about oh, my family came from here, and my grandma's full Italian. She came here over in 1950 or whatever. It's cool to hear about people's cultures and where they come from.
I agree.
Yeah. Regardless of race.
Well, what do you think about this episode? How do you think it fared? Do you think the public will respond well to it, or do you think they're going to call us racist?
I mean, I think we get called racist no matter what.
Well,
but
okay.
I am impressed. I didn't get as fiery as I thought I was going to. I kept my calm.
You kept your cool.
Yeah.
You kept your cool. Yeah,
I woosawed through it.
Yeah, it is just amazing. A lot of these sound bites that these things are said, that we even got to a point in our culture where these things are okay to be it's okay to say these things.
Yeah. Yeah. My hope is that America slowly turns and realizes that we've been reverting backwards and
well, the few people that are fighting the good fight and fighting for things like equality, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You just hope that good ideas win out and truth will win out.
Yeah, definitely.
That is it for you guys. Thank you for listening to this episode. Hope you liked it. Let us know what you think on all our socials.
Yes, and as always, we have bi-weekly show uploads on Wednesdays. Season 4, Episode 7 will be on April 26th. That will be our April monthly scoop.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Strive Nation podcast with your hosts, Cory, Estreen, and Taylor Huff.
Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Strive Nation Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Join us for our next episode in 2 weeks. And remember, when the world is upside down, Strive Nation is right side up for you guys. Have a good one.